we set sail for the island of Sumatra. This island, like the rest of Indonesia, is at the mercy of large corporations who raise and burn the rich Indonesian forests, turning them into vast monocultures. These practices, often dubious, threaten the survival of the last Sumatran elephant populations, a species critically endangered. Over the past 75 years, 80% of the population of Sumatran elephants have disappeared. We arrive at Riau province, in the central part of eastern Sumatra. Prior to 1982, 80% of this territory consisted of primary tropical forests. A haven for many species, Indonesia's forests are home to nearly 15% of all living species on the planet. In the 1980s, the Indonesian government gave most of its forest concessions to large companies that have raised, burned, and converted it into monocultures. Today, the production of palm dominates, but the land is also used for lumber and pulp and paper production. Over the past 25 years, 70% of the elephant's territory has been destroyed.
During our trip in Indonesia, in both Borneo and the island of Sumatra, we've seen ancient forests cut down and really ravaged land, where all the water was removed from the soil to dry out and eventually give way to monocultures that are now the basis of the Indonesian economy.
Companies producing palm oil ransack the forests and the valuable peatlands of Sumatra in order to develop palm plantations, which now stretch out as far as the eye can see. Recently, other concessions were granted to large corporations, and if nothing is done to stop this massacre, there will soon be no more of this pristine habitat for the species of Sumatra. The Drups palm produces palm oil, the most used vegetable oil in the world. It is found everywhere, in food, cosmetics, and biofuels. More than half of the food products in our supermarkets contains this palm oil. The rapid deployment of these monocultures at the expense of the forest is growing. Each year, approximately 2 million hectares of forests are cut and burned. In terms of area, it is the equivalent of 6 football fields disappearing every minute. Sunarto is an Indonesian biologist who works for the World Wildlife Fund. A specialist in elephants and Sumatran tigers, Sunarto agreed to accompany us during this expedition into the heart of what remains of the Indonesian forests.
Wow.
Yeah, look at this.
These trees look older than the other, right?
Yes. Many are just recently planted here. You can see here the age or the height of the plants are different from the place over here that we can tell.
All that was forest before, not a long time ago.
Yeah, until 1982, more than 80% of the land of Riau province was forest until 1982 also. And you can see here the smoke over there.
Yep.
There's still some areas that are still under the process of the deforestation.
Oh, yeah.
And typically, the conversion from forest into the oil palm involves the burning.
All the animals, they have no other choice but leave the area or even
Live or
die.
Die. Yeah. Yeah.
Scientists estimate that between 80 and 90% of all forest species will die during these clear cuts. The international scientific community has reacted strongly to the planned massacre of Indonesian forests. They have lobbied the Indonesian government to protect its forests and its biodiversity. Parks were then created to preserve what had not already been destroyed. But the safeguards were never met. Some companies are still continuing production within park boundaries, and small farmers, frustrated by an economy that offers little advantage for them, began to illegally exploit patches of protected land to plant palm trees. Indonesian authorities turn a blind eye. Droop's palm produced by local farmers will be purchased by the large corporations complicit in the destruction of the last remaining patches of protected forest.
Wow. Yeah, look at this fresh fruit bunch of the oil palm. Yeah, and it has to be processed really quickly. So it cannot stay for too long, otherwise the quality will be really bad. That's why it is important to have the mills close enough to the plantation area. Yeah.
And there's two types of oil, right?
Yeah, two kinds. First is made from the outer part of the skin, and the other is from the inside, the inner, which is the kernel. Yeah, and the kernel palm oil. They are made for higher quality products like probably cosmetics or like the chocolate mix for chocolate, high quality food. Yeah.
So not long time ago, that was a virgin forest.
Yes, as we can tell here, there are some leftover trees here, the died trees. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
This tree.
And it's amazing, it's so quiet. There's no life here.
Yeah, at this time of day, if we are in the forest, like maybe 20 years ago, it would have been much different, right? I mean, a lot of noise we can expect from the rainforest, but here at this time of day when animals supposed to be hungry and looking for food, we barely hear any. Except like few birds that are singing. Very common bird.
So there's no room anymore for tiger or
Well, for tiger it'll be too open. The tiger needs somewhere to hide, right? Yeah.
Life has disappeared at the heart of the palm groves. Only a few years ago, the plant and animal species formed a complete ecosystem, unrivaled in its wealth anywhere else on the planet. The national parks should ensure the conservation of these species, but the lack of competent authorities on the ground has given free rein to poachers, who have destroyed all conservation efforts. Created in 2004, the Tesonilo National Park was to protect 1,000 square kilometers of forest. Today, about 80% of the park is now exploited illegally by poachers. It is near the Tesonilo Park that the World Wildlife Fund has developed a special patrol. The Elephant Brigade is known here as the Flying Squad and regularly intervenes to keep wild elephants away from plantations situated on the outskirts of the national park.
There used to be around 4,000 Sumatran elephants back in the mid-80s. Rough calculation now, the population is just around 1,000 left. And there are possibly around 500 in captivities now.
Wow, that's
This
big.
is Rahman.
Hi, Rahman.
Hello.
Hi. How old is he?
He's around 32 years old.
And that's a female?
And the female here, Lisa. And the baby, Imbo. Hey, Lisa.
Hi. Hi, baby. Look at this. Come here.
The baby Imbo.
Come, Imbo.
Almost 3 years old.
Come here. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
You okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Okay, we can go. Jalan.
When did you start the Flying Squad?
Well, we started the early 2004.
And what was the goal of the Flying Squad?
The initial goal was pretty simple. We faced a lot of problems of human-elephant conflict where a lot of wild elephants come outside of their habitats because of the increasing area becoming plantations.
Yeah, because they don't have anywhere to go anymore.
Yes, and having this squad where we train the elephants to chase the wild elephant back to their natural habitat will help reduce the conflict and reduce the victim from both sides, humans and the elephant at the same time. And mind your head here, the gate is not that high compared to the elephant.
Well, your elephant is much bigger than mine, actually.
Yes, and I have to do this to make me safe. It's tough being elephant here in central Sumatra, especially in Balai Raja, where their habitat is almost totally converted into oil palms. Despite the situation, they still are surviving.
The Elephant Brigade must complete a rigorous training to respond to the commands of their mahouts. A special relationship based on respect and mutual trust is essential to enable the patrol to act effectively in all situations.
We patrol areas where the plantations are close to Tesonelo Park. We try to prevent elephants from entering plantations and destroy everything. That is why we use guns. The noise frightens them and makes them flee.
Without the intervention of the patrol, conflict escalates rapidly, often resulting in the deliberate poisoning of elephants that threaten plantations. Poisoned fruit is used as bait and gives the elephants no chance. They die for simply wandering onto cropland. The victims are many, and the education of the locals would perhaps be the only salvation for the last wild Sumatran elephants.
Not all villagers prey on elephants. We should be able to treat them the same way we treat humans.
Elephants are highly migratory and require large territories. They form herds that can reach up to 15 individuals. Even within the park, elephants are increasingly confined because of illegal logging. They sometimes venture into cultivated areas, creating problems with squatters who want to protect their plantations.
When the park was established, the park was already in a very bad condition at that time. So basically almost like land of nobody, and that's why these encroachers started to come. So the encroachers that were already there at that time become even more rampant because they possibly invite more people, and now almost 80% of the area is now gone and turns into oil palm mainly. Duduk, Bro.
This is quite amazing.
Yes.
In the heart of the park, another patch of forest is ravaged, burnt, the first step before planting palm trees.
Who did this?
This area, what I heard is done by the local people here, not far from this area, that they still believe that this area is still part of their customary land.
But is there any police or, park gardens around?
Yes, there are, but it's not enough and not efficient enough, I think, in dealing with very complex ways of forest destruction in this area. It's so complex. People who are in the field are basically, generally, just poor people that happen to need some money or just to sustain their life. The process not only caused the deforestation and the degradation or even extinction of some species, but also the smoke, for example, when during the dry seasons, there usually the area is full of smoke, and we also suffer from smoke even for the people in the cities, even the neighboring countries also suffer from smoke because of this kind of process.
Although the process is illegal, They burn the forest to simplify the logging operation. The CO2 accumulated throughout the life of a tree is released into the atmosphere, contributing significantly to global warming. To help protect the last wild elephants, Sunarto's team used collars to track their movements.
Hey, we've got the coordinate for the elephant.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's here. This is where the elephant is, and our camp is here.
So it's not too far.
So it's about 1 hour drive.
So should we go?
Yep, I think so. The sooner the better.
Great.
In addition to the flying squad, we also have a patrolling team that regularly patrol wider areas to detect the whereabouts of the wild elephant. So ideally, we know first the movement of the wild elephant before they go into plantation areas, because once they are in the plantation areas, it will be more difficult to drive them out of that. So the best would be to detect them first and prevent them from even entering. Because this is the time when they just basically wake up from the sleep during the hot day, and they usually want water to have and enjoy it for a while. So yeah, that's the situation.
Okay.
A receiver picks up a signal from the radio collar on an elephant. It guides the team through a grove of acacia trees, widely used by the pulp and paper industry. No doubt, the feces are fresh. We are on the right track.
Kedengeran detak-detak. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
An elephant has come to eat the fiber just under the bark of this tree. This kind of damage provokes the ire of the plantation owners.
Something else.
That's big.
Yes.
It's not a small elephant.
Although this is not the biggest. We used to have bigger one, but yeah.
That's pretty big. Look at this.
Yeah, step on it. Feel it.
Excitement grips the group as we approach. Wild elephants are constantly hunted by poachers and have become aggressive towards anyone who confronts them in their territory. There it is. So close. Avoid any confrontation.
It's a funny feeling when you are in front of them because there is a lot of emotion. We are facing a huge beast, and at one point, there was an exchange of eye contact. We didn't know whether to stay or run away, but the feeling is quite difficult to describe. A mix of fear and mutual respect. All in one look. It's really fascinating. An unforgettable moment stuck in my memory for the rest of my days.
Their way.
In the end, there were 13 of them. It was pretty amazing, a truly incredible moment, a unique instant, because these elephants, they are wild and of course, they don't want contact with humans. And thanks to our guides, we were able to follow them. It was really an amazing moment.
This special meeting with the last wild Sumatran elephants helps us understand the importance of the program for the protection and prevention of conflict established by the World Wildlife Fund. The success of the Elephant Brigade is based on close ties between the animals and their mounts. The daily bath helps build these essential links between elephants and their mahouts. This special moment, almost intimate, allows us to witness the intelligence of these exceptional animals. To protect the last wild elephants, the flying squad regularly patrols the boundaries of Tesonilo Park to prevent potential conflict between farmers and animals on the move.
So, Sunarto, what are we looking for exactly during a patrol like this?
Well, we do the patrolling twice a week, and we checking around in the area whether there is any recent elephant visit. What I mean is wild elephant visits to near this area.
Yeah.
And talking with farmers if they have any problem with crop raiding by elephant.
Is there lots of conflicts between wild elephant and humans around here?
Oh yes, yes. Definitely, because of this very close boundaries between the forest, the elephant habitats, and the plantation areas.
Yeah. So your role really is to push back the wild elephant in the national park.
Yes, as much as possible, we would like to. Well, the flying squad team would like to prevent it from. Prevent the wild elephant from even coming into the plantation areas.
Yeah.
Because once they're in, it will be more difficult to drive them back. So if we can, we will do as much as possible.
There are some locals in front.
Yes, let's talk to them.
Yeah. All right. I'm John.
Makasih, Ndro.
Pak Budia. Nice to meet you.
Pak, pagi, Pak.
Selamat pagi.
Atau Pak. Ya, selamat pagi, Pak.
So, Sunarto, did they have any problem with elephant here before? Did they see elephant around?
Pak, di sini gajah liar pernah datang nggak, Pak, ke kebun Bapak di sini?
Sering juga, sila cuma satu.
Yes. There is one that wanders around here regularly, a large male.
Kerusakan yang ditimbulkan seperti apa, Pak?
Yes, he's caused damage in rubber plantations and also destroyed clusters of palm trees. Despite this, we have the utmost respect for these elephants. They are a bit like our grandparents.
And can we see any damage around here that wild elephant did?
Ada bekas-bekas kerusakan yang disebabkan gajah nggak, Pak, di sekitar sini?
Walk on this side. You will see.
Sana, Pak. Let's go.
Every day, an adult elephant will consume between 150 and 200 kilograms of plants of all kinds. If it cannot find its daily ration within the park, it wanders off in search, often penetrating into the plantations.
Wow. An elephant did that?
Yes.
Wow.
They're very, very powerful, especially if they want something they want to get.
Like what? Like food?
In many cases, like the elephant look for either food or salt. They really like salt, the mineral. Yeah. Pak, setelah kejadian seperti ini,
Are you bitter towards the elephants who destroyed your home?
Dendamkah atau seperti apa Pak rasanya Pak?
Of course not. They didn't know it was a house. They were looking for food, that's all.
The educational work of the flying squad seems to be working here, near the WWF camp. But conservation efforts are not appreciated by all. The mahouts sometimes take great risks, and their lives are often threatened by poachers. Many illegals have organized themselves into stronghold villages and claim ownership of the protected forests.
These people are not happy with what we work. We try to stop the deforestation, which means that we are stopping somebody from doing business. And for sure, they're not happy with that. And what they did was kidnapping one of our team members.
The destruction of the habitat doesn't only affect the populations of wild elephants. Sumatran tigers, another species critically endangered, struggle to survive in what remains of the forests.
In 1900, there were still more than 100,000 individuals of tigers in the world. And now the latest estimate in 2010 or so was only about 3,000 individuals left.
Sunarto and his team have established a catalog identifying the last Sumatran tigers. They can accurately track the growth of the population that took refuge in what remains of the Teso Nilo Park.
Keberadaan harimau, dari tanda jejak dan sebagainya, terus teman-teman memasang kamera trap. GPS, okay?
This is WWF camera trapping teams. The tiger team that is trying to estimate the tiger population in this area, in Teso Nilo National Park.
Okay.
Siap. Sip. Lanjut. Oke, semua siap? Oke, ya. Lanjut.
How do you choose a good spot for a camera trap?
There are many things to consider for that. First of all, is it a good trail where you find a lot of animal signs there that the tiger will likely to pass?
Yeah, so you will choose a passing site or even a resting site?
Yes, and passing site will be the more likely place that we will find, yeah.
Masuk dalam grid nggak di titik ini nggak?
That's a good spot?
Jadi GPS ada nggak?
Can be. So we have a curve here, especially for video. It will give the opportunity for us to capture the tiger scenes from there, and the other camera that will have a still image will capture the full frame also from here. That way we can identify the individual more surely. The situation for Sumatran tiger, the latest estimate was around 400 individuals, and now I think with the forest being converted so widely, we figured that the number is much lower than that.
A census of these remaining tigers by motion detection cameras takes weeks to complete. There is no respite for the team. Again tonight, the brigade must intervene. Elephants were seen on the edge of a large plantation. A team is quickly dispatched to the scene. Motorcycles are preferred to elephants for this risky nighttime operation. The traces left by the passage of the herd are obvious. Sunarto is called in as backup. The team will try to scare the elephants using guns. The noise scares the animals, but no one can predict which way they will go. In the early morning, the team goes in search of the elephants to see if their actions of the previous night help move the herd to a safe area, far from the plantations.
So the elephants are on the other side of the river?
Yes, there are. The herds are across the river. Yeah, the farmer just told me that they just went across the river this morning.
Okay.
And by this time of day, we should expect that they cross this place to find a more shady place for them to rest.
So they are in a plantation right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that's another plantation on the other side.
Yeah, that's the problem here. Yeah, everywhere is plantation, so it's hard for the elephant.
Yeah.
We are just at the limit of Balaraja National Park, and we hear farmers who are attempting to hunt elephants off the plantations. Part of the herd just crossed the river. It now requires a lot of caution because obviously these elephants have become aggressive towards humans as they are constantly being pushed out of the plantations.
Challenge here is that to chase the elephant, you need to direct them to a place that is safe. But here there is almost nowhere they can go.
The owner of the plantation company has deployed a group of workers to hunt elephants in the palm grove. This small army, equipped with fireworks, stalk and surround the elephants, who don't know where to go. A sad circus in nature, where the elephants have become the victims of a real hunting party.
You know, normally when you come in forest to see wildlife, you like it, you know, calm and quiet, and it's almost unreal.
Trying to go here, but there's somebody there again.
Yeah. Again, they're trapped.
So many noise here.
Yeah.
The elephants have left the first plantation, but must quickly turn back when faced with the attacks of the neighboring plantation workers.
We are living in like the war zone.
The fear in the eyes of these elephants, trapped between two plantations. The men regroup. The hunt is about to resume.
They keep on trying to survive despite this kind of situations. Almost every one of them got different kind of scars in their body because they've been tortured here and there. Slowly, 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 run up. Now we are safe.
Look, you know, they're right in the middle of the two plantations and they don't know where to go.
Yeah. Different people chasing from different directions, so they must be really confused.
The sad circus continues until nightfall, where each plantation owner is desperate to hunt elephants on their land. But the elephants simply have no more protected areas in which to survive. National parks such as Tesonilo are reduced to almost nothing, and the Indonesian government, complicit with the industry, continues to turn a blind eye to the illegal acts.
I have the privilege to work with these magnificent species, including elephant, tigers, and rhinos, and they are categorized as critically endangered under IUCN criteria. All of these species or subspecies are in that category now. The next step beyond that is extinct in the wild, and we really don't want them to be there.
Sunarto and his team's efforts to save the last wild elephant populations are remarkable, but they are not enough. Contributing to the ever-increasing demand for palm oil for our consumption, we are all responsible for the industry's strength. But there is not only bad news for the flying squad. An elephant calf has joined the ranks of the famous brigade. Good news for a species on the brink of extinction. Surveillance cameras installed in the Tesonilo Park also show encouraging pictures. New tigers, unknown to Sunarto's team, will be added to the identification catalog. A female and her young, the hope of an entire endangered species about to disappear forever. What good news for a country that so badly needs it. Indonesia has more species of plants and animals than almost any other area on the planet, second only to Brazil. But this astonishing biodiversity is under threat. Every year, 2 million hectares of forest are cut down. Major corporations are turning these precious tropical forests into lucrative single-crop farms. It is the equivalent of 6 football fields disappearing every minute. The deforestation has many victims. Between 80 and 90% of forest species will die as a result of clear cutting. The original forest, bursting with life, is slashed, burned, obliterated, and replaced with orderly rows of palm trees to produce the most widely used vegetable oil in the world, palm oil. Our first stop is the island of Borneo, or Kalimantan. At 736,000 square kilometers, is the 4th largest island on Earth. At the heart of these lush tropical forests lives a small, remarkably agile tree primate, the gibbon. Its characteristic song has become the forest anthem, a long lament with which it defines its territory. Of the 17 species of gibbons identified in the world, 7 live in the forests of Indonesia. All are threatened by the rapid disappearance of their habitat. The forests of Indonesia are home to a large variety of iconic species, like elephants and orangutans. But they struggle to survive in isolated patches of forest. In the last 50 years, Indonesia has lost over half of its forests. Without immediate action to stop the destruction, an estimated 98% of Indonesia's tropical forests could disappear in the near future. We might think Indonesians are seeing some benefit, some improvement to the local economy, in exchange for letting their forests, that have always been at the center of traditional culture, go up in smoke. Not so. Oil palm production requires little manpower, and most of the workers on these industrial farm operations earn less than the local minimum wage. But the most astonishing thing, when you walk through these giant plantations, is the silence.
At the foot of the trees are bunches like this, that are filled with what you could call the gold of these new Indonesian forests. This fruit is the basis of palm oil. It's very sad to see how life has disappeared from formerly thriving habitats.
Fortunately, some people are fighting for change, like Aurélien Brulé, who left his native France at 18 to settle in Indonesia. Aurélien was only 12 years old when he first encountered gibbons. Through the bars at a zoo, he spent many hours observing them. At 16, he wrote his first book on gibbons to the astonishment of specialists. Here, everyone calls him Shani, which means gibbon in Thai.
As a child, I wanted to leave France. I wasn't rejecting my country, I just knew it was going to happen. And in May 1998, I ended up in Jakarta and had a rude awakening. Because I'd always dreamt of living with the gibbons, in a little cabin in the woods surrounded by animals, and yet I quickly saw that if I was going to help them, that wasn't going to happen. I witnessed deforestation on a scale I could never have imagined. The entire forest is being attacked. 90% of the forest had been handed over to the logging companies. So the primeval jungle, the virgin forest, forget it. That only exists on the highest peaks of the central mountains of Borneo. So I had to deal with reality. I'd also forgotten that Indonesia has a large human population with complex cultural and societal values. Many people keep gibbons as pets.
Gibbons are often killed during deforestation. The baby, clinging to its slaughtered mother's belly, will be captured and sold. Trafficking in wild animals is illegal in Indonesia, but is still widespread.
I understood that saving gibbons was going to be a lot more complicated than my childhood dream, which was to throw open cages and set the animals free. I spent a year negotiating with the forestry department for permission to create the first gibbon conservation program. I had no money. I was 18, a complete unknown. That's when I woke up and saw that to save the gibbons, I was going to have to do it with and for the local people. Welcome to Calauit.
Thanks.
In 1998, the Calauit Association was formed. Today, it's the largest gibbon protection project in the world.
We're approaching the first two buildings of Calauit. The animals are around back. The 147 gibbons, the bears, and crocodiles are behind the buildings, so that anyone coming up from the river won't be able to get at them directly.
So you're not open to the public?
Absolutely not. The only human contact the animals have is with team members.
So the idea is to recreate natural living conditions for the animals.
That's right. To let them socialize, to let them become gibbons again. They've lived with humans for many years. We pair them off and isolate them together in the forest so they can learn to have a normal social life and basically learn to become gibbons again. Throughout the Indonesian archipelago, we estimate there are 6,000 gibbons in captivity. Where do they come from? From the forest. The mother is killed and the baby clinging to her belly is captured. And they become living playthings. They're toys. People play with them for a while, then stick them in a cage where they die. It's sad, but this is increasingly common. More and more animals are being held in captivity because so many are caught during habitat destruction. So the logger moonlights as a poacher. They cut down the forest, leaving a little stand of trees where the gibbons are easy to catch. Then they sell them. That's why the conditions at Calauit, even though unfortunately the animals have to be caged, are a world apart from the conditions they were in when they were rescued. This is a socialization cage. We keep the younger ones together in groups like this. Then once they're fully mature, we separate them into mating pairs. Watch it, she's trying to.
And the main reason there's not much chance they can be released back into the wild is because there is so little forest left.
Yes, where any forest remains, there are already too many gibbons. Any that survived the clear cutting have taken refuge in isolated patches of forest, and since they're very territorial, they're already killing each other. So I can't release these animals. That's what's so frustrating. I came to Borneo 15 years ago to set the animals free, and I'm now keeping several gibbon families caged here at Calauit because there is nowhere to release them.
So more deforestation will only increase the problem.
Yes, and that's why Calauit has to get involved in habitat protection. Not so I can release my gibbons, but so that the gibbons in the forest can stay there. This is Leo. He escaped from one of the cages and attacked another gibbon. It just goes to show that gibbons are extremely aggressive among themselves. His wrist was so badly injured we had to amputate. We have to be on the lookout for it with the gibbons. I can't put more than 2 adults in an enclosure, and that makes it tricky. With orangutans, you can put 15 or 20 individuals on an island. With gibbons, or a gibbon pair, I can give them 15 hectares, and if I add any more, they'll start to fight.
So with this amputation, his chances of ever being released are...
He stands almost no chance of ever being released, but that doesn't mean we won't try to find him a mate, another gibbon who can never return to the wild, so that he can have a social life in a large enclosure at Calauit. We have a sanctuary as well. 25% of the animals here can never be released because of illness or injury. So it's important for us to give them a decent life, even in captivity.
You're taking a blood sample to see if the gibbon has contracted any human diseases?
Yes. We'll find out if the gibbon has hepatitis, for example, or any other strictly human disease. Gibbons often get infected when they're kept as pets. And if they test positive for any of these diseases, they'll never be released.
The team at Calawait is made up of veterinarians and local workers inspired by Shani's passion. Around 50 people are employed at the 2 conservation centers, caring for these animals displaced by deforestation.
Shani is really committed to saving the world, the animals in the world. I've seen him fight for the last 11 years, and he's completely dedicated.
Yes, I am proud to be the part of Calawait. The good thing about Shani is he's very inspiring, and he's very dedicated in what he's doing. You know, what with Calawait being growth this huge.
Feeding time comes twice a day, and everyone pitches in. Here at the only conservation center in Borneo, over 5 tons of food, mostly fruit, is served up to the 100 or so captive residents.
So this is a different setup. Are they in quarantine?
Not anymore. We've set them up as a pair while they wait for a larger enclosure. It's a richer environment, and they make a good couple. You can see the female is a bit shyer than the male. And the male is eyeballing us with that typical chewing motion that means, watch it, if you come in here, I'll get you.
He dreamt of living in the heart of the jungle with his gibbon friends. He pictured them free, without bars. That's what he came here for. But in Borneo, Shani soon learned that his childhood dreams were unattainable, that the vast old-growth Indonesian forest he'd imagined were a thing of the past, wiped out by the insatiable maw of big business in cahoots with corrupt officials. These large enclosures stand in for the forest, and the man who dreamt of freedom can't simply open the cage. Today, for Shani and his dedicated team, the only option is saving life where it still exists.
We approach with 2 blowpipes. Only Nanto has a dart, but we confuse her, so she won't know where the dart is coming from. That way she'll be in a good position because we need to hit her in the thigh. It's tricky.
And this is the latest arrival?
Yes, so we need to examine her. Perfect. Perfect. Nanto is a Dayak, and the blowpipe is their traditional weapon. She got the full dose, so she should be asleep in 10 minutes. Here, Jean, help me out. Take her and put her on the table while I take my shoes off. Take one arm, and then the other. There. Lin will come with you. She's a white-bearded gibbon.
A white-bearded gibbon. They have quite a set of teeth.
Yes. And as you can see, they cut off her fangs. It's common when they start to get aggressive. They were cut right through. She should have fangs 2 to 2.5 centimeters long. Captured gibbons that are sold as pets get aggressive as they grow older, so people cut off their fangs in an attempt to control them. It's done with a hacksaw without anesthetics, so you can imagine what that's like.
But the aggression arises naturally as the animal starts to mature. It's a natural instinct.
Yes, at sexual maturity. In the wild, gibbons are rejected by their parents. When they're raised by human parents who don't reject them at maturity, the child has to initiate the separation. The gibbons declare their independence by getting aggressive. The life expectancy of a gibbon in captivity is 7 years, max. In the wild, it's 30 years. I'm lucky. I've known what I wanted to do since I was a child. When I was 12, I met one particular monkey in the zoo near my house in the south of France. It was a gibbon. I had a lot of questions because the animals were kept in solitary cages. It seemed wrong to me, and I wondered why. I realized that to be able to help them, I had to understand them. I went to see the zoo director and ended up spending every Wednesday at the zoo. I began to hate seeing the animals in cages. I wanted to travel to see them in the wild, to see real gibbons. I wanted to help them, but I had no tools. I didn't know what I could do. I often say I had to learn to speak Gibbon. And that takes time. You need to take the time to observe. And today, I often observe things that I remember from my days as a kid in front of the gibbon cage at the zoo. So that has proven really useful, because gibbons are unique among animals in that they're monogamous and that they choose each other according to their personalities. So figuring out the gibbon's secret is above all getting to know the personality of each individual. Not giving these animals a second chance. I'm giving them a decent life, which they deserve. They didn't choose captivity. They didn't choose to be caught by poachers. It's our duty as human beings. I'm contributing by having these animals serve as wildlife ambassadors, to give us the means and the tools to protect those who are still in the trees. It's a global problem and very complex. The situation in Indonesia is dire. The worst deforestation on the planet is taking place in Indonesia. It's proceeding at an alarming rate, and it makes me so angry. I've been here for 15 years. I remember places that were densely forested. The first Calawate camp was 3 hours by boat from the nearest village. Today, the plantation is only half an hour away. Once the palm oil plantations are there, it's over. No forest will ever grow there because the soil has been stripped away. In those areas, the forest with all its inhabitants and all its biodiversity is lost forever.
Here on the foot, you can see the soil is very moist.
Yes. The first thing they do before cutting down the trees is dig canals to drain the forest. They get rid of all the water before starting to cut. So there's a great risk of fire in the dry seasons. The original forest would be flooded at least 4 times a year.
We're right beside the road here.
Yes. Usually the companies stay away from the roads, but in this case, they're working with locals, landowners and villagers, to set up plantations along the road. Then the property owners will sell the bunches of oil palm fruit to the companies.
Right, so it's not just the great forest that you can see from the road, but there's also cooperation with local farmers.
People are pressured to grow oil palms because they know that the nearby companies will buy the bunches from their plantations. So a company that owns 15,000 hectares will be able to harvest fruit from almost double that amount of land.
That's sad.
Very sad. There's nothing left. No gibbons, no life.
Under international pressure, the Indonesian government has created national parks and reserves, but it hasn't made much difference on the ground. The bureaucracy is such that some oil palm plantations operate with impunity inside national parks. The spread of these large corporations leaves very little land for the locals. So education has become a real force for changing hearts and minds.
To do that, to have a few victories, to save the forest, to save the animals, you can't accomplish anything alone. You need support. Lots of support. And in order to rally people to the cause, the message has to be positive. We need to be able to report victories. Ecology is our future. It's not a quote-unquote pain in the neck, which is how it comes across the media. People go home, turn on the TV, and get a lecture. I want to do just the opposite. That's what I do on Radio Kaluwaite. Our message is that ecology is positive, it benefits us all, and it can be fun. Saving an animal is fun. You go to bed at night, damn, today I made a difference.
To communicate with the people around, Kaluwaite has its own radio station.
Oke, ketemu lagi dengan Shani di 99,1 FM. Seperti biasa kita akan bahas masalah lingkungan. Jangan lupa buat kamu yang pelihara satwa liar seperti wawa, orangutan, beruang, ular mungkin, jangan sampai menyiksa mereka di kandang. Biarlah mereka kembali ke alam. Untuk itu hubungi Yayasan Kaluwaite di 0813 492 17991 atau langsung datang di kantor Kaluwaite di Jalan Pinus nomor 28. Sekarang kita simak lagu favorit kamu dan kita kembali setelah kurang lebih 45 menit. Jangan kemana-mana, tetap di 99,1.
On air for 10 years, Kaluwaite is the #1 radio station and actively participates in Indonesian life. The voice of Kaluwaite is now heard everywhere and broadcasts its conservation message.
Ataupun lewat email buat kamu yang mungkin mau bagikan informasi mengenai
There's a tremendous lack of information. You mustn't think all Indonesians are bad because they keep gibbons. They're simply uninformed. That's where Radio Kaluwaite makes a difference. When we explain, you know your pet gibbon who died after 7 years? It didn't die of old age, but at sexual maturity. That knowledge alone will make some people think and bring us their animals.
99,1 FM Kaluwaite Radio, the best music for life.
The solution is with young people. They're the future, and they'll be making the decisions in a few years. They have the energy to promote Kaluwaite and go out and save animals. So the primary objective at Radio Kaluwaite is to be heard. Then we'll start to promote awareness among young people whose main interest is not in saving gibbons. And it's working because over 60% of the animals we get at Kaluwaite Borneo are from listeners. Listeners are doing our work for us. It's the schoolgirl who says to her friend, "I'm worried you have a gibbon at home. You should listen to Radio Kaluwaite and call them."
Kaluwaite Radio, 99.1 FM.
That's how we get animals. We're a very small center, yet we get a lot of information out, and we save a lot of animals. Because of all these listeners who quote-unquote work for us, who send us texts, emails, or call the hotline for us to come and help an animal who's in bad shape. Or who get us to intervene between wild animals and villagers. We recently took in a bear who was on a balcony. Some oil palm workers had captured a bear and were keeping it on a balcony. Some listeners let us know. Because the bear often fell off the balcony. Having all these listeners gives us real power because, again, we're a small team with very limited means, but we have the support of 10 to 15,000 listeners 24/7 who text us information.
Whether it's a bear, a critically endangered crocodile, or a snake, whenever conflict arises between animals and humans, Kaluwaite intervenes to try to find a solution that works for everyone.
This is what my life's about, doing positive things around me. I can't do otherwise. I can't explain why. At any rate, I know one thing. When I come home with Prada, with my children, I go to bed at night proud of what I'm doing. I can't explain why, but this is what I'm meant to do. I came to Indonesia to save gibbons, and I stayed because I fell in love with Indonesia. because all my little victories, no matter how small, have been won with the support either of the locals or of my team, and obviously all the people around me are Indonesians. So this has truly become my country. I now have Indonesian citizenship, and I'm proud because it gives me a certain legitimacy to say, look, we have to protect the forest, we must. I'm fighting for my country, and that's an additional incentive to be even more effective.
One of your essential tools is your paraglider.
Yes, it's extremely effective because it takes so little effort. In a single half-hour flight, I can evaluate the situation in a reserve of over 1,000 hectares. It would take days on foot to ensure that there was nothing to worry about. I can also keep an eye on areas that are being cleared. This shows a path that was made in the interior. It's the first step before clear cutting. It's an access to the forest. And there they've started clearing, and you can see what's going on. So that's clear cutting. And they've also set fibers to be able to cut faster. So that forest is on fire.
But there must be a risk of the fires spreading.
A great risk, but that's actually what they want. To set a fire and burn as much as possible, so it's easier to burn the forest into a plantation. These fires don't get out of control, they are deliberately set to spread as far as possible. That's why there are dozens of fires lit here and there, so as much as possible will burn. The longer the dry season, the happier the oil palm industry is, because they can, unfortunately, convert the forest more quickly.
Isn't it against the law?
Absolutely. But this goes on every year in Borneo and Sumatra. The haze will even go beyond the country's border. That's how huge the fires are.
In addition to public health issues caused by the ever-present haze in the cities, the forest fires send all the carbon stored in the trees throughout their lifetimes up into the atmosphere. Deforestation is responsible for 20% of annual worldwide greenhouse gas production.
When I created this reserve in Borneo, I did it with the authorities, with the locals. It was an ideal conservation organization. Then came elections. Attitudes and interests changed, and they're now cutting down the forest, so we can say goodbye to the animals we released into the wild. What will happen to those animals? I've devoted 11 years of my life to a reserve in Borneo, 11 years of work, money, and patrols. Today, as we speak, this forest is being clear-cut. And the orangutans and gibbons who call it home? Sorry. That was the end for me. Now I don't take risks. I buy the land. If I'm permitted to, under Indonesian law, now that I'm a citizen, I will buy up as much as possible. Even if in terms of conservation, I'm not sure it's the best option. But if we want to be as certain as possible that we can save the forest, we have to buy patches of forest, create private conservation zones.
Buying the forest to preserve it. With few means, Shani opened a second conservation center in the neighboring island of Sumatra. That's where he's buying up sections of forest and protecting it from attack from big corporations.
Avec 1000 euros,
With €1,000, we can save 1 hectare. A family of gibbons needs 15 hectares. €15,000 will save a gibbon family forever. That is very concrete. And if we own the forest, we can put protection measures in place without having to seek authorization from any elected official, who may change every 5 years, or lobby authorities for which there is never a guarantee. This is completely different. Someone cuts down a tree on my reserve, it's as if someone came into my house to rob me. I call the local police who do their job. Welcome to Kalawit, Sumatra.
At the high point of his reserve, we witness the morning spectacle of a family of wild gibbons. Free on land rich in a variety of species, in the heart of a section of forest protected by Kalawit.
It's wonderful because looking down, you can see wild animals, which is almost impossible when you walk through the forest.
Yes, it's one of the few places where you can observe wild gibbons at eye level. This is a family of 5. And it's great because the male has light-colored fur and the female is black, so you can see patches of color moving through the forest.
That young one seems pretty lively.
Yes, that's typical of gibbons. He's almost 2, still close to his mother, but he moves around on his own, jumping around to the annoyance of his parents.
There's a specific dynamic in terms of their songs. There are 2 almost identical songs in the same family.
Yes, gibbons use song to protect their territory, but not any song. It's a duet between the male and the female. The female will sing a crescendo that lasts 18 seconds. And if there's a young female, she will try to imitate her mother. Over time, her song will become identical to her mother's. And when her song is perfect, we know she's about to mature. It's the same for a young male. He'll spend time with his father and learn to be a male by imitating dad. So from a distance, even if you can't see them, you can tell how many are in the family, the sex of each individual, and the extent of their territory because they sing all around the borders.
What's amazing is to see that the work you do with the cages, with conservation, now allows you to buy sections of forest to protect it.
Yes. Thanks to the animals you hear in the background singing in their cages, I can protect the wild ones. This is why I came to Indonesia, to see wild gibbons and protect them. And we're doing just that here at Kalawit Reserve, the forest we bought. I can touch that goal with my fingertips. Saving gibbons means saving trees, which saves all the animals. So that's a priority, especially in Indonesia, where deforestation is moving so quickly. We have no time to lose, and the best way to proceed is to buy up the forest.
Shani installs motion-activated cameras to do an inventory of the animals who come to his private preserve.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A pig-tailed macaque.
They stay on the ground.
They do. They eat fallen fruit. The camera trap allows us to identify species in the interior, and for large animals like the tapir, to recognize individual animals, so we'll know how many there are.
So the cameras are revealing the wealth of the forest.
We know how rich the forest is, and the camera lets us show it to others. We've had bears caught on camera. We have videos, photos of the golden cat, an elusive panther. These are little victories that allow us to shout a little louder, "Hey, help us because the forest is rich. We have the evidence. Here, look." In Indonesia, the first big victory, and we have the necessary tools to win it, is to ensure that zones protected under Indonesian law, all the existing national parks, all the existing reserves, are well and truly protected on the ground. We have the tools we need, the laws on our side. National parks and reserves have already been created. But it's clear to see that in Indonesia, the way the law is enforced is not what people are used to in developed countries.
We try to meet the minister responsible for forests, to ask for explanation, to try to understand why conservation measures passed by this government weren't enforced on the ground.
We're from Canada. We're filming a TV show about the forests of Indonesia.
Yes.
Is it possible to, after your talk, to just ask you a few questions? But after your talk? Huh? Just 5 minutes after your talk?
That day, the minister announced another bill in response to international pressure. A plan to reforest areas destroyed by monoculture.
Ada 56 ya, 56 lembaga konservasi kita di seluruh tanah air.
The Indonesian president launches a campaign to replant 1 million trees. It's a joke. Cancel one oil palm company and you'll save way more than 1 million trees. And you won't have to spend a fortune getting trees, planting them, and so forth. It's just a big joke, a farce. This is also a very corrupt country. Indonesia is the 5th most corrupt country in the world, so you have to deal with that. I can't remake Indonesia. My goal is to save gibbons, save the forest, so I do anything I can to achieve that.
Calawait is a foundation that relies on public donations to survive. Will Shani's howl of distress be heard in our homes? We, major consumers of palm oil, can make a difference. This oil, used in food processing, cosmetics, and biofuels, can and should be subject to far more effective conservation measures. Respect of habitats and biodiversity should be required of palm oil-producing countries before they are granted the right to exploit their forests.
The fight against palm oil is crucial, not just for the forest of Indonesia, which unfortunately is already severely affected by palm oil. Anything we can save in Indonesia is only a first step. But if we don't organize a defense, an offense against palm oil, then the industry will start the same process of destruction in Central Africa, in Gabon, especially, which is renowned for its lush forest. The oil palm corporations are already there, and in Latin America. That's why it's vital to have victories here, so that the pattern doesn't repeat so severely in other countries where palm oil exploitation is in its infancy. Just look at what's happened in Malaysia, which was one of the first countries targeted by palm oil and where little forest is left. The main thing is not to be pessimistic and not keep looking back saying, oh, look at what we've lost, what we're going to lose, it's a disaster. Yes, it is. So you have to roll up your sleeves, and that's what I'm doing. Oh, he's scared. That's Tante.
As a child, Aurélien Brulé had a crazy dream of going to live with gibbons, free, in the heart of the old-growth forests of Indonesia. His journey led him to confront a sobering reality, where nature is under attack from all sides in the name of short-term profit, no matter what the long-term consequences may be. Far too often, avarice kills life.
I can't imagine anyone thinking Calawait is a solution. It's often presented as such. Yes, we're doing amazing work, but we won't save the gibbon. Not the gibbon. We're saving some gibbons. And there's a huge difference. We're not saving the forest. We're saving bits of forest. Fragments, pockets. But if we don't do it, we'll lose everything, so we have to do it. Maybe there'll be a study in 30 years in Borneo and we'll have saved 2% of the forest. Yeah, but it's not all gone. We have to focus on that, because if we don't act now, if nothing is done, we'll lose everything.
This man of nature has led the fight of his life, a life dedicated to saving gibbons and the many species that live within the last great forests on the planet. His new dream now allows him to save much more than gibbons. It's allowing other species to survive as well. And in an interconnected world where the fate of one species depends on the fate of others, Shani, in his own way, is also fighting for our survival.